Let's go over to X and see how the internet did react to the game. First up is from Swift Spurs saying, Spurs, stop giving me your toughest battles. How are you still alive?
Well, there is a goal, by the way. West Ham are 1-0 up.
Oh, West Ham are 1-0 up, are they?
West Ham are 1-0 up. Mikel Antonio has just scored. So that could be a big goal in the top 4 race there.
All right.
Big moment.
I'm not going to celebrate a West Ham goal, but...
you can celebrate Villa losing.
I'm going to celebrate Villa losing. But let's go on to Luca THFC saying, I'm wondering if City fans were turning on Pep after seeing these games in the first season. That's a 4-0 win, a 4-0 loss to Everton, 4-2 loss to Leicester, 3-1 loss to Chelsea, going down to 9 men in stoppage time, and a 2-0 loss to Tottenham. And I think that's spot on as well, because you look at it and you remember at the beginning of the season, Spurs fans, me and you were sitting here saying, you know, it's very likely Spurs could take a few beatings this season, but it's all part of the process. New manager, new system. Maybe the fans got a bit carried away from the first 10 games and thought this is our new norm. But you got to realize where we're at as a football club, in what direction we're going in as well. And it's always going to be hard. And I think you're always going to get these moments in a first season under a new system.
Definitely. And that's even with your first team. Even if everyone's fit for the whole season, you're still going to have those moments where you're not fully there as a team because we're in the first year of the process. And I think that tweet is absolutely spot on. I think I'm surprised it hasn't maybe happened even more often. Obviously, I think it's really only the second time. You have the Brighton game and then there's this game. Apart from that, we haven't really had this type of display so far this season. So I think Ange deserves credit for that. And he needs, he's got credit in the bank because of how we played this season. But it's very disappointing when that happens yesterday, seemingly out of the blue, isn't it? No one really expected us to be second best to that extent as we were yesterday. So that was obviously a bit of a shock and a real disappointment. But as that tweet displayed, even the best managers in their first year, that's always possible to happen, and that's I think what we're seeing.
And from the same kind of argument, Danny Kiriakou with the super chat says, "Big up, boys. Are we forgetting that this is Ange's first season? Look at Arteta after his first 2 seasons. We need 3 windows and 9 players, 1 starter each window." And I think it's right to compare it to maybe Arteta's first 2 seasons and other managers' first 2 seasons. We are on a path, the right path, in my opinion. We do have the right manager at the helm, but it's not going to happen overnight.
No, and also on the contrary, if you compare Postecoglou's first seasons to those managers, he's probably ahead of where they were at the same stage. I think we're performing higher. I just think people forget how much these managers struggled early on because they've been so good consistently now for a few years with their respective clubs. People forget the troubles they had to go through, don't they, to really get to that stage. And that's kind of the period we're in now. And the fact that we're in that period and we're still right in that fight for top 4 and still have a good chance of getting it, I think is a testament to Ange doing a really good job at Spurs. So yes, yesterday was really disappointing and frustrating, but that's just part of the process, isn't it?
And you got to remember the struggles and the problems that he's had since joining this football club. First of all, losing Harry Kane on the eve of the Premier League. Don't ever underestimate how much of an impact that's going to have at your football club to lose your best player, your talisman, essentially he would have been captain if Hugo Lloris, when Hugo Lloris stood down. So not only that, but the injury problems that he's had as well.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Asval Karim says that, why is this foul not a red card? And that was João Palhinha on James Madison.
I did think it was a bit of a naughty one. I did think so. That picture explains well. I do think he's maybe a bit lucky. It was just a bit low. I think any higher, I think he has risked
right on the ankle, though.
Yeah, you can see the ankle rolls, and it was not a good challenge. He got booked for it. I think any higher, maybe VAR look at that. But I think it was definitely a naughty challenge. I don't think it was a good one there from Paulini yesterday. I remember seeing that when we were watching it, thinking it's not a good one. On another day, Madison could have been seriously injured.
Yeah. One Football say Tottenham have only kept 2 clean sheets from their last 19 games in the Premier League, and it's not good enough, is it?
No, that's not good enough. I know Ange says, he doesn't celebrate clean sheets, and that's not how he plays. But I don't think 2 clean sheets in 19 games is something that he would find acceptable either. And I think that's something we have to address, because especially if we're going to have some players missing chances in the forward line, we're going to need a tighter defence to make up for that.
Yeah.
Yes, when we get maybe the attackers that the system needs, maybe that'll be a different stage. But at the moment, when you've got Werner and Johnson missing those chances, then you can't afford to not have a defence a bit tighter.
Yeah, and I'll take it back to the first 10 games of the season. Yeah, we were conceding goals, but the chances that were created were so few and far between. How many times did we finish games thinking, oh, Vicario's hardly been tested today? Mm-hmm. Like, why has that defence become so open in the second half of the season?
And you can't even blame it just on injuries, because since the other defenders have come back, it's not really changed too much.
Yeah.
Although it's been better, it's not been like it was first 10 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Troll Football said it's the history of the Tottenham. Days since the last shit show is 0.
We've been used to that one, haven't we? Classic.
I think we see this meme every single year, about 20 times a year.
Yeah, honestly, bloody Troll Football.
He's the Ido says, I feel sorry for the people who rely on Tottenham Hotspur for happiness.
So you still feel sorry for a lot of us then, definitely.
Ron Hotspur says, the entire Tottenham Hotspur team today.
How is that? It's the meme of that guy saying you get paid all that money, you got mansions, you've got people rubbing your feet, you've got everything, and you can't bloody pay a simple pass, you can't control the ball. It's one of my favourite memes. I love that guy. He's probably right. We were completely all over the place in this game.
Yidos90 says, said it last week, Ange is out of his depth, being outplayed by Everton, Brentford, Wolves, Brighton, Bournemouth. The list goes on. Tottenham have had a bit of more individual quality to get over the line. As a team, we haven't got a clue. I think that's a bit hyperbolic and a bit harsh.
Very hyperbolic, I think, in my opinion. I mean, look, this is the Premier League. You're going to have games, even against teams who you think are inferior, where they give you trouble, and doesn't mean they've outplayed you. It just means they're finding ways to hurt you, and you've got to overcome that. And I don't think in all those games he's talking about we've been outplayed. I just think those games we had difficulties in those games, and I think some of those games we overcame those difficulties. Some of those games we didn't. But especially not only the fact that in the Premier League you're going to have those difficulties, but especially in your first year as a new manager, implementing a completely new philosophy into the team, especially in those circumstances and with the injuries, you're definitely going to have games where you're in trouble. It doesn't mean we've been outplayed or anything like that, what he's suggesting. It just means that, for me, that's just a consequence of all those situations being rolled into one. So to say to me that Ange is out, that's proof that Ange is out of his depth is nonsensical. I
think that in the games he's talking about in terms of being outplayed, I think the only ones I agree with probably are the Wolves and the Brighton game. I think in the Everton game, yeah, there were periods where Everton were on top, but there were also periods where we were on top, so that doesn't mean we're outplayed. Brentford, I thought probably for the first half we were outplayed, but then in the first 10 minutes of that second half, we came out and absolutely dominated them and scored 3 goals. And the Bournemouth game, I don't think we're outplayed at all. So, yeah, I think he's completely wrong in the majority of it, but Wolves, Brighton, and yesterday we were most definitely outplayed.
But you're not going to outplay everyone every week, are you? Especially straight away. It's not going to happen. So there is going to be games. It doesn't mean he's out of his depth, because some games we get outplayed. You know what I mean? So
I think
silly.
No one can sway me saying that Ange Postecoglou is not the right man to take us forward. Mm-hmm. No one. Luca THFC saying Tottenham, after they found out that you don't need to fight for 4th in order to get Champions League football.
Rest easy, guys. And look, I'm not there yet though, because obviously we don't know if 5th gets Champions League, but obviously if we're fighting all the seasons for 4th, then 5th ends up in the CL and we get 5th. It won't mean as much, that fight, will it?
Yeah. Return of the Shelf saying Tottenham fans protesting against the cut of the senior concessions. That was a sign being held up from the away end yesterday.
There was a really weird story coming out of that, though, which Martin Cloak posted on his Twitter, saying that apparently apparently he was one of the fans holding up the banner, and he said a Tottenham fan came over to the banner and ripped it in half. Really odd. Why would anyone want to do that? It's really strange.
From what he was saying, that apparently it was blocking his view.
Oh, is that what it was?
Apparently.
Well, the fans.
That's what he said. That was that's the reason he said to him why he ripped it down. I'm sure there was other reasons as well, but that was one of the reasons that he gave.
See, well, very disappointing if that was the case. Look, from what I can see here, Raul Jimenez is on, so the game must have been at least 3-0 at the time. I don't know why you want a good view of that, but anyway, I think it would be a much more important protest to that at that stage.
Yeah, I think it was, first of all, tempers were probably riling up very high. Second of all, maybe it was a thing that he disagreed with and didn't think it was worth protesting against. And third of all, he probably wanted to see the pitch a bit more. So I think maybe a few different things all culminated in a bit of anger yesterday.
Oh, good you cleared that up.
The Extra Inch Spurs podcast put together by RoadToaster7 on
that's
COYS Reddit.
Yeah.
And what's this? He's talking about.
So this is comparing
the starts of all these managers, basically. Ange Postecoglou, Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Erik ten Hag, and Maurizio Pochettino. And Ange is actually coming out the most favourable out of all of them.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing the best at the moment, according to this. Well, not quite. I think Pep. I don't know if it's what order this is in, but. In terms of comparing points per game, like much better than Arteta, much better than Klopp, much better than Poch, obviously. Looks like Ten Hag and Guardiola only slightly ahead. But I think that what it's trying to just show is that it's not easy in your first season in charge. You're not going to just start winning every game immediately. And Ange is actually stacking up quite well to some of the best managers.
Exactly.
So I think that's quite a good comparison.
And I think that's what we've been consistent in saying throughout the whole season, even when we were going through that dodgy patch, even in the last couple of weeks, that it's not going to go all swimmingly all the time. You need to sometimes just trust in a manager and trust in what you're trying to do. And I think that when you look at what's happening for the most part, you can see avenues of how we can get to where we want to be.
Yeah, and also you look at that one as well, longest unbeaten run. Ange is ahead with that. He's had the longest unbeaten run of anyone in that. So, and also you look on that right-hand column in terms of the highest price signing. We've had the lowest one as well, so we haven't spent the money of a lot of these managers as well. Fabrizio
Romano with a Son quote from yesterday saying, losing that game, I think it's unacceptable as a player. We should take responsibility. We were soft. It's unacceptable. The fans do not deserve this. Attacking players should feel responsibility because we had chances to kill the game. I don't know if we had chances to kill the game, but we had chances to get back into the game, in my opinion. And Heung-min Son in his interview yesterday just looked absolutely distraught, didn't he?
Yeah, I completely agree. He looked despondent. He was. He definitely cut a different figure to Ange, who was a bit more calmer. But Son did feel like it was one step forward, 2 steps back. That's what the phrase he used. Although Ange said it was 4 steps forward and 1 step back. But yeah, let's hope Son can rile up the team when they do come back. I do agree with you. Like, we didn't have a chance to kill the game. I think that's the wrong phrase. Maybe it's an English thing, but I don't think that's the right phrase. But I think it's definitely fair to say that we had more than enough chances to score a couple of goals in this game. So he'll be definitely disappointed we didn't get on the score sheet.
And last but not least, there is quotes from Big Vic on Instagram, and he says, "Not much to say. Today we were not good enough. You deserve better from us. We will be back." And I mean, I'm too used to seeing these kind of quotes over the years from various different Spurs players. I
know, it starts to ring hollow at some point. You get numb to it, which maybe we're starting to feel now. But let's hope that these set of players mean it. And I do feel like they do.
All right, so that is it from us today. That is our assessment on the Spurs game, 3-0 loss. We have a long time to dwell on this now with the international break coming up. We come back in 2 weeks' time against Luton at home, where it's imperative not just to get back to winning ways, but to put in a really good display. We need to respond to that, and to the only way that we know how to. We've seen it time and time again, Spurs responding to a bad result in a really good manner, and I have no doubt that we'll do that in a couple of weeks' time. But we have a break now for the international break. I think England have some crazy games like Brazil and Belgium or something like that. But yeah, I just want to thank you all for tuning in today. We'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.